The pasuk which we wanted to primarily focus on is the pasuk in Micha Paragvav pasuk Ches. The pasuk says, "V'atama Hashem Elokeinu doresh mimcha." I'm sorry. The pasuk is, "Yilecha adam atovu ma Hashem Elokeinu doresh mimcha." So Chesed, Habas Mishpat, Vatznei Alecha Sim Elokecha. The Navi says that the primary values in Judaism are three. What is good, what Hashem demands of you, are Asos Mishpat, to do justice, Abbas Chesed, to love kindness, Vatznei Alecha Sim Elokecha, to walk modestly before Kodesh Baruch Hu. This is a direct parallel to the pasuk in yesterday's Haftorah, the Haftorah from Parshas Chazon. The last pasuk in the Haftorah, Parshas Chazon, is Tzion b'mishpat yipadeh b'shaveh b'tzedakah. Pasuk in first parak in Yeshaya. Zion will be redeemed with mishpat, with justice, b'shaveh b'tzedakah, and its returnees will return with tzedakah. So obviously we have mishpat and tzedakah here. Mishpat is obviously corresponding to mishpat in the pasuk in Micha. Tzedakah obviously corresponds to chesed in Micha. But where is Hatznei Alechas? So the Mekubalim say that Tzion is corresponds to a Makom Tsanua, a place which is hidden and modest, and specifically it corresponds to the Eben HaShasiyah. That is the commentary of one of the freshmen, the Zohar Breishis, to call a Remez. He says that Tzion represents the Eben HaShasiyah, which of course is Tsanua. It's the foundation stone of everything, but it's in the Kodesh Kodashim, and nobody really gets to see it except for the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. So it's the most hidden place in Judaism. That is the place called Tzion. It's called Tzion because it is Tsanua. There's a correlation between the two of them. The Tzion and Tsanua are obviously similar words, but besides that, it is the marker, the fundamental mark of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's relationship to the world, because there is the way place from which the world was spread out. It was the first thing created, according to our Masorah, is the Eben Shasiyah, and from there everything spread out and the rest of the world came into being. So, if that's the case, Tzion corresponds to that Vatznei Alechas in the pasuk of in Micha, and obviously it means that in order for us to return to Eretz Yisrael for the Gula to come, we have to come to an understanding of what these things are, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants of us. So Mishpat, Abbas Chesed, and Vatznei Alechas Sim Elokecha. So there's a greater question here, which is that there is no clear-cut mitzvah in the Torah itself about Vatznei Alechas Sim Elokecha. There's no concept of tznius in the Torah as far as we can find it explicitly. So, and yet Micha Hanavi says that this is one of the fundamental precepts of Judaism. In general, we have to understand what it means when it says that Micha came, and in the Gemara, the Yanamaka says that David came and identified 11 principles of the on which everything is based. So just walk in. David came and identified 11 principles. Yeshua came and identified 6 principles, and then. Have to be quiet. Middle of talking. Be quiet. Please don't do that now. I know, it's going to interfere. Why are you talking? I'm talking, giving a shear. Okay. The Yeshua came and made them into 6 principles, and then Micha made them into 3 principles, and Habakkuk made them into 1 principle. Tzadik be'emunah so yichya. So what is this issue that? What is this issue that that all these things are mentioned as principles of the Torah? So, Simchas Broida in his Sefer HaYosher Tov, which is all about Vasis HaYosher Tov, basically comes to tell us that the primary purpose of the Torah itself is Vasis HaYosher Tov, to make sure that we do that which is. Excuse me, I have to I'm sorry about this. Please leave the window. Okay, please leave.
I was not making noise.
I know, but you laughed. That's smiling into the video. I'm sorry about that. So the basic principles of everything in the basis of every principle which we have in that Gemara in Makos, he explains as how we come to do Hayashar V'Hatov. Hayashar V'Hatov is a pasuk, of course, in Sefer Dvarim, but it comes to tell us that the fundamental principle of Judaism is to do good and straight. Now, good and straight is defined by each of the Nevi'im and by the principles that they choose to highlight as Yashar V'Tov. And bear in mind that the Yashar V'Tov in the Torah itself, it's not explicit what it is, so therefore requires definition. And sometimes, says Reb Simcha Sissel, the definition of what's going to be Yashar V'Tov is not going to be a mitzvah which is explicit in the Torah, but rather a principle which has to do with how you come to make your entire Avodas Hashem one of Yashar V'Tov. Everything is going to be straight and everything is going to be good. And that requires, again, highlighting things which are not necessarily explicit in the Torah. We know Reb Chaim Vital is the famous Reb Chaim Vital who says that the Torah never specifies midos tovos. It doesn't say you have to have good midos in general. Yet Reb Chaim Vital says that these are preconditions for the Torah. Derech Eretz Kabbalah Torah. One has to have these midos before one begins to accomplish things in Torah. What Reb Simcha is saying is a little bit different. He's saying the Torah itself says, we're not going to tell you everything. Now you have to go and find what those things are which are going to make you Yashar V'Tov. What are the principles, what are the practices which are going to lead you in that direction? And these Nevi'im were coming along and trying to tell us what these principles are. Now they become extremely fundamental when it comes to Tisha B'Av, and it comes to the Churban, and it comes to trying to get to the Geula, because we can't get to the Geula unless we have these principles in effect, as we shall see in a few moments. So let's talk about these various different principles. The Maharsha in his Chidush Yahadus says that are two sides of the coin. These are things which are good in of themselves, and you should want to do them. These are obviously values which can be considered universal, not just things to do with Judaism. But they're also Mahashem Daresh Mincha. They're also things which HaKadosh Baruch Hu demands from you as the core values of the Torah in ways which perhaps we can only understand if we have the Torah. In other words, again, every person should at least want Asos Mishpan Avas Chesed. But the Maharsha says that that is the Chiddush here. Asos Mishpat Avas Chesed are universals. That is something which is unique to the Avodas Hashem of a Jew, and we'll explain what that is in a few moments. The Asos Mishpat is to do, obviously, that which is righteous, tzedek, that which is just, yosher, that which is straight, that which is true, with a proper balance and a proper analysis. Avas Chesed doesn't just mean to do chesed, but it means your totality is one which loves chesed. In other words, you do chesed to be yotze. You do chesed because you love doing chesed. You do chesed because it becomes your essence. So, olam chesed iboneh. Chesed has to become the essence of an individual. Avas, that's asos mishpat, and avas chesed. But what is hatznei lechasim lokecha? So, a person has to be aware that relative to what one is required to do in this world, all of the godless, all the greatness of a person, all of one's personal accomplishments are of relative, minuscule value. And the person has to be tzanua because the person has to be an anav, and there are two sides of the same coin. Anav is the cognition that I have to devote all my koichos to Kodesh Baruch Hu because they were given to me for that purpose, and that's emotions anam mikol adam, in that he knew that he was great, but he knew that all of his koichos were a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not necessarily something which he of his own merit, and therefore they were things, koichos which he had to devote to Hashem. And as the Chabad Abba says famously, always has to be an honor, because if a person is inferior, so a person's inferior. And a person is superior, but that might be because they have very vast potential, and perhaps they've not achieved anything near the potential relative to the inferior person. But the inferior person who has less potential could have accomplished more relative to his potential than you did relative to your much greater potential. So you can never be, at least not say, you can never look at yourself as greater than anybody else. Again, because either you're inferior to them, or perhaps you are inferior in how you used your resources. So that is one aspect of Vatznei. And Rabbeinu Yonah says in Yahadus, he says, "Vatznei leches imel keches ikar kniyoscha v'kfifroscha." This is your primary submission and subjugation. La'avodas Hashem to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, vatznei leches, with modesty. Ki zeh yoreh kniyoscha. This shows your submission. Shelo tachmod kavod amasecha nichbadim. You're not looking for honor for your respected deeds. And certainly you won't look for honor for the milas which you have, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not want of you. You should not be take pride in them at all. And he says, what are these? Osher, riches, gvura, and the power, umineh chachmachmos, and wisdom. Zulasi haskel biyados Hashem yitzborach. The only thing to take with which one can take, so to speak, credit is what it says in today's Haftorah, Haftorah for Tisha B'Av. So a person cannot take pride in their riches nor in their wisdom. But only in this can a person take praise, and take praise. It's not so simple. Obviously, a person's praise has to be but sneers too, and we'll come back then in a few moments. But Zosi Salam has scale v'yodosi. And this points out it's not just yodoaosi. It doesn't just say no Kodesh Baruch Hu. It says haskel. What does haskel mean? Haskel means that a person has seichel. What does seichel mean? A person considers carefully his Yediyas Hashem qualitatively and quantitatively. And that part of tznius, part of tznius leches, is to know that it's haskel, to know that even as much as I know, the ultimate realization of how much we know is how much we don't know. And that's what leads a person to the level of tznius, meaning sense of humility. We'll come back to tznius, sense of modesty, in a few moments. Rabbi Simcha Zissel goes on, he says, tznius himida mimida sa'adam. Tznius is a midah of a person. Normally, when tznius is taught as halachas, and there are more halachas for women than there are for men. And but tznius is not a halacha. Tznius is a midah. Utchuna mitchunas tohar nafsho. And a person who possesses tohar nefesh, purity of soul, has a higher level of tznius. The Shita Mekubetzes, the Yad Menacha, says that Rav was a great honor. He was very humble. And didn't look outside his 4 amos. Which is a very strange thing, because what does it mean? I can say a person doesn't want to look outside the 4 amos because they don't want to see things which they shouldn't see. But Rav doesn't say that. Rav says he didn't look outside. The Shita Mekubetzes doesn't say that about Rav. They didn't look outside his 4 amos because Staktus Asuros, they shouldn't be looking at certain things or involved in certain things, though, because he wasn't Anav. And an Anav must be focused on what's going on within the person, not what's going on outside. And the Rabbi Yisrael Bloch, the tells the Rosh Hashiva, and the Shuri Das, it is recorded that he was once asked by Bachrin whether they should always take into account tznius in doing their good deeds, or if a person is too concerned to be tzanua, it might impede their accomplishment in this world. So therefore, tznius should not be such an important thing, not be such a paramount value in their avodah. And the Rabbi Yisrael Bach answered that no, it is of paramount and utmost importance that things be done with tznius. And he gives several reasons. He says, first of all, if a person doesn't do things with tznius, then they take into account things which are going on around them, how they interface with the rest of the world in 2 different ways. One is that they want to know how other people are thinking about them. And 2, they want to make a certain impression on other people. Again, they want to have input, feedback about how people regard them. And as a result, based on that, rather, they want to comport themselves in certain ways. I once heard from an executive director in the yeshiva about the Rosh Yeshiva. He said that that Rosh Yeshiva wanted to change the world. And when one wants to change the world, sometimes the world ends up changing them. The statement is a very powerful statement. What it means is that if I want to change the world, very often I need to listen to what the world wants to hear, or at least I shouldn't say need to, but I will go ahead and listen to what the world wants to hear in order to make my message conform with what I think is going to have an impact upon them and how they're going to regard me. Etznuim Chacham means the focus is inner, inside. There is a focus on what is Ratzon Hashem and only what is Ratzon Hashem. He says that there is a fascinating halacha, which is brought down that a Mora Hara, somebody who paskin shilas, should not sit and paskin in the presence of people with whom he is not on intimate terms. Why is that? Because the people who are not on intimate terms can have an impact upon how he thinks. Because he might think in ways which he thinks will have a certain sort of impact on the people who are surrounding him. Maybe shock value, maybe demonstrating brilliance, demonstrating great memory, who knows? But you're not supposed to have people around you when you're paskening who are not people you're normally accustomed to be with. It's an amazing statement. It diminishes your tznius, it's a lack of tznius, and therefore it incapacitates you from rendering a proper psak. He says another fascinating thing about tznius. He says that we have a statement which Chazal make that somebody who answers to a bracha, the person who says amen to a bracha is greater than the person who makes the bracha himself, which is an amazing statement. Why is that? Why should that be? So most people don't take it literally. Today I didn't take it literally. But Rabbi Yosef Leib says a fascinating thing. He says that a person who's amen is a person who recognizes that he can receive from others, not just perform on his own, but rather he is listening. He is attuned to what other people are saying, what other people are doing. And only a person sanua who recognizes that they have to not be pushing out, but also taking in, because of their focus on what's going on inside themselves. Become lamdai hiskalti, learn from all those people who person comes to contact with. Only such a person actually can fully develop chachma. And he says that's a beautiful shot. That's why it says somebody who answers an amen yisayma is chayav misa. Somebody answers an amen to a bracha where he doesn't know which bracha was recited, is liable to death, which is a very strange thing. Well, what's so bad about answering amen yisayma? After all, he knows the bracha was made. He just doesn't know what bracha was. But he knows the bracha was made. That bracha was made. No, the answer is that he knows that the bracha was made, but he doesn't know what the bracha is. That means that he's not really following, listening, and trying to attune himself to other people. No, he just answers amen generically. He doesn't have any what they said doesn't have any significance to him. Not trying to unpack it. He's just answering amen because maybe it's a mitzvah. Maybe it's he thinks that it's the right thing to do, but he's not actually gaining from it because an amen yisoma is symbolic of not trying to absorb a lesson or absorb a new understanding from another person. So this is a person who's a tzanua, not is inner focused, and is also trying to constantly grow, and is able therefore to look at other people and try and learn from them. So that's part of Haskel v'Yado, to learn to look at the Bria and understand from the Bria, from other human beings, from other creatures, what Ratzon Hashem is in the Bria. Now, the idea of tznius thus becomes, again, like Reb Simcha Zissel said, a midah, and it's a midah which is uniquely stressed in Judaism, that there's a notion of hatznei leches im Elokecha, and the way it's put by Rav Zevin is it's not by Rav Zevin. This is by Dr. Isaac Breuer. He says, Atzneya leches, you, go b'tznius, imelokecha, which then will highlight and amplify the divine will. In other words, diminish your own involvement in order to focus on the involvement with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is what a person's supposed to be focused on. The tznius, hatzei leches, on yourself, ima elokecha, to focus on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, all this has very much to do with the Chorban Abayis, both Abayis Rishon and Abayis Sheni. First of all, back to the pasuk of Tzion b'mishpati badeh b'shaveh b'tzedakah. Tzion, as he said, means tznius. Mishpat is mishpat, and the shaveh b'tzedakah is havas chesed. The famous vort which Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld said to Dr. Isaac Breuer. He came up with it on the spot, and while they were both waiting and for some meeting with some British official, he said, Tzion b'mishpat tipoteh, in Gematria is Talmud Yerushalmi. The Shaveh B'tzedakah, Gematria is Talmud Bavli. Now, I was told this is a very cute Gematria, and it's extremely impressive, right? But there's more to it. Tzion b'mishpat tipoteh, Tzion mishpat tipoteh is Talmud Yerushalmi, because in Eretz Yisrael, before, when we're not in a state of Golus, that's when mishpat can reign supreme. It was a concept in modern Israeli law, mishpat ivri, Jewish justice. You can't have Jewish justice in Chutz La'aretz, because Chutz La'aretz we have other countries, other nations, which are on top of us. Only in Eretz Yisrael can there be true asos mishpat according to the laws of the Torah. B'shaveh b'tzedakah, who are the shaveha? Those people are going to return to Eretz Yisrael. They're the people who made Talmud Bavli while they're in Chutz La'aretz. They come back with tzedakah because in Chutz La'aretz, where mishpat is not possible, the primary focus is on chesed. There, in Chutz La'aretz, our primary focus cannot be on mishpat because we don't have the capacity to do mishpat. Our avodah is a different avodah, the avodah of chesed. As we know, the avodah of Shammai was din, the avodah of Hillel was rachamim or chesed, and we know that the world was not able to tolerate Shammai's level of din and had to go with Hillel's midah of chesed, and we know the Mukabalim, to whatever it means, say that Shammai, which means that in this world it's impossible to subsist precisely with mishpat. And Bnei Yisrael were not zoicha b'mishpat. That's why they went into Golus. In Chutz La'aretz, the main focus, and in Golus in general, the main focus until Mashiach comes has to be on chesed, not on mishpat, because a mishpat is not, even in Eretz Yisrael today, where the government is not a government which is going to do things completely according to Jewish law. The focus cannot be a mishpat, the focus has to be a chesed. And this is the Kodesh Baruch says that Chila, he wanted to create the Olam B'din. It was not possible for the world to exist, so therefore Shita is Midas HaRachamim. Din is the ultimate. That be able to do things mishpat is the ultimate focus, the ultimate goal. But in the meantime, we have to focus on chesed. Now, this is not to say that chesed is a stopgap measure. Mishpat is the ultimate measure. No, of course not. Chesed and mishpat always have to go together. The asus mishpat and avos chesed are not separate; they're together. But it's essential when we're Golus to make sure to focus more on chesed than on mishpat, because that's our job. The job of mishpat is not available to us at the moment. So the both of these things have to do with tznius. They have to do with Tzion, right? Ki mitzion teisei Sorah dvar Hashem Yerushalayim. Tzion teisei Sorah is the law itself, and the Torah. Dvar Hashem is nevuah. Dvar Hashem Yerushalayim. It's interesting that Dvar Hashem was considered much more common than Torah. Torah is kind of tzanua, it's nuim chachma, and Dvar Hashem, the nevuah, is much more widespread. Torah remains, so to speak, in the Beis HaMikdash, and Dvar Hashem is what spreads outside to everybody else. The idea is that the person who generates Torah and the person who spreads the Torah are not necessarily the same person. The person who generates the Torah is a person of Mishpat. The person who spreads the Torah very often has to be a person Shel Chesed. The Gemara says in Sukkah that Torah Lishma is Torah Shel Chesed, or Torah Minas Lambda. Torah Shel Lishma is not Torah Shel Chesed. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that the person who's sitting in his 4 amos and focused on Torah is not about Chesed. Again, Chas v'Shalom, we're not trying to say there's this absolute dichotomy between Chesed and Mishpat, but looking at the aspects of what's primary, the person who's sitting Aladin is primarily one of Mishpat. The person who's spreading, so to speak, Nevuah, or spreading the Torah outside, that's a person who's more a person of Chesed. The Gemara says, all Torah has to be Torah of Chesed. Yes, it starts internally, but then it goes externally as well. Again, it has to come from an internal source, not from an external source. It can't be a feedback loop, because then it can be distorted. Then you get into all sorts of potential problems of gaiva, of arrogance, and of trying to meet up with the people you're trying to influence. So let's come from inside, from a makom tzanua, from inside. Rachmana liba boy. The Beis Hamikdash, the Emet Shesiyah, is the lave of the world, and Kosh Baruch Hu looks for the lave. And there, the lave is very, very much hidden, because it's not supposed to be influenced by the outside. It's supposed to come out and influence things on the outside. So that's that pasuk, but of and we know that the world stands on 3 things: Torah, Avodah, and Gemilas Chasadim. Torah is Mishpat, the judgment. Avodah is tznius. In other words, a person's avodah as Hashem is supposed to be b'tznius. Persons, both the Mispali Musar and the Hasidim say that a person has to always have the trait of tznius in the avodah as Hashem. A person's not supposed to be flashy. The Yitav Lev, who's the Satmar Rebbe's grandfather, the Sigater, he has a very beautiful piece on Hatznei on the Pasuk Micha in his Sefer al Torah and the Parashas Truma. And he speaks about, yes, it seems to be an apparent contradiction that a person, let's say a Rebbe, does things with great publicity, but at the same time, he has to be tsanua. It's not a contradiction, as he knows. Chazal say that in Masechet Sukkah that what's supposed to be done b'tznius, hachnasas kala avoyas hameis. These are things which, by definition, are very public. Yet the Torah says, the Chazal tells, they have to be done b'tznius. What does it mean? That tznius means that I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do, not because I'm trying to show off. I do it because it's the right thing to do, not because I want to aggrandize myself. It's a story which I heard years ago. The Rebbe Eliyahu Kansky was a Shiva in the Mir in New York, said that when he came to America, he was bewildered because in Russia, whenever people wore furs, they had the fur inside the jacket and the skin, the hide on the outside, and that would be warmer because the fur would be on the inside and the hide on the outside. But when he came to America, he saw people wear the fur on the outside and the hide on the inside, which is not as effective. Until he realized that the reason why people who wear fur in America is not to keep themselves warm, but to burn out other people's eyes. So that is the antithesis of tznius. And it doesn't matter what the material object is, when the focus is, well, how is this going to affect somebody else, rather than how is this fulfilling Ratzon Hashem, that is the lack of Hatznei Aleches. And the 3 Averos of the first Beis Hamikdash, the Arayos, Avodah Zarah, Shvichus Domim, they too line up with these 3 things. Shvichus Domim is an absence of Mishpat, where there is this utter lack of justice in a place where murder runs rampant, and certainly less severe crimes like Hamas and Gezel and all the other crimes of Chavera of the first Beis Hamikdash. Their lack of Mishpat. Gili Arayos is a lack of chesed, in the sense that people expand towards others in a way of taiva, but not in a way of chesed. Lust means I expand towards another person because I want to take for myself pleasure. Chesed is I expand towards another person because I want to give them, because that is Ratzon Hashem. That is how I emulate HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Arayas is the antithesis of true chesed. And of course, Avodah Zarah is the absence of Atznei Leches Imo Elokecha. And we know the basis of Avodah Zarah is very much based on this notion of pageantry, which in Judaism is a very, very limited place because of the notion of Atznei Leches Imo Elokecha. We want things, only things which are done with tznius are significant to the greatest extent. Things that are done with the intent to make public pageants and spectacles are very often shallow and superficial, don't have the right motives driving them. So we need to counteract Avodah Zarah, Gilarash, because dominated by these three things. But the worst Avera is the Avera of Sinas Chinam. And Sinas Chinam is the Avera which the second base of Mikdash destroyed, and for which I see no progress, if anything, regress being made over the last centuries. It must have been bad back then, but I can't imagine it as bad as it is today. But Sinas Chinam is the antithesis of the entire goal of Asos Mishpat Abbas Chesed Atznei Leches Imo Elokecha. How is that? Because let's go back to Simcha Zissel, Hayashar Ba'atov. That which is Yashar and Tov, that which is straight and good, is the antithesis of Sinas Chinam. Because if you had Sinah for a purpose, if there was some Misanecha Hashem Esna, you hated the people who hated HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no, then that's not necessarily a contradiction, because that is something which has some yashrus to it, in the sense that these people perhaps do deserve to be hated because they are bad for society. But if we're not talking about Misanech Hashem, and the whole sinner is just because it comes out of me. In other words, I have this negative perspective on other people. That's what sinas chinam means. There's no cause outside of me. It means that I feel the sinner because of myself. I'm jealous of that person. That's sinas chinam. Why? Because they didn't do anything for me to hate them. I don't want because I'm jealous of them. I think that I see them as a threat to me because they seem better to me. That's sinas chinam, and that's the opposite of a yashar v'tov. That is mushchas, corrupt, which is the antithesis of that which is straight and that which is good. So sinas chinam, avodah zarah, gilui arash, each one has a specific point in the triad of which it contradicts. But sinas chinam contradicts the entire underlying principle. And the Habakkuk, when he came along and gave the ultimate principle, the emunah which he's talking about is the emunah Kodesh Baruch Hu, which therefore makes us realize our Tzelem Elokim, and that we have to be focused on Yashar V'Tov, just like Kodesh Baruch Hu is focused on Yashar V'Tov. And that is the sinas chinam is the antithesis to Yashar V'Tov, and it's the antithesis to the Tzelem Elokim and the purpose of the Bria, which is to be like Kodesh Baruch Hu in doing Yashrus and doing Toiva to other people. So the sinas chinam is antithesis to everything which is represented by the Navi as being the core values of Judaism. And there's another triad which I want to discuss today, which is Das, Rachamim, and Tiferes. And this triad was the invention of one of the great Balei Tshuva in Jewish history, Dr. Nathan Birnbaum, in the 20th century. And he identified the Jewish society. It was a big Baal Mussar, but more of a Baal Mussar for society as opposed to Baal Mussar for individuals. And identified three areas in which there are major avodah must be done. There's major toil to be expended. Das, wisdom. Rachamim, kindness. Tiferes, majesty or glory. And the connection to the three principles of Avas Chesed, Asus Mishpat, Avas Chesed, is obvious. Das is asos mishpat. You have to know in order to do things justly in the world. That's the purpose of the knowledge. Rachamim is kindness, is chesed. And tiferes, the tiferes of a Jew is hasnei lechas. The tiferes of a Jew is doing things with modesty and humility, and not b'kol rash gadol. Kol rash gadol is for malachim. We're supposed to do things with hashket uvitcha, with quiet and with confidence. The more noise is going to Chazal say istera begina kish kish karya. You have just one coin in a pot, and you shake it around, makes a lot of noise. You have many coins that don't make as much noise. Making noise is a sign of shallowness, a sign of a lack of tznius, a sign of a lack of having within a person that core drive to do things because of Kodesh Baruch Hu wants us to do them, not because other people are looking at us or we want to impact upon those other people by having them look at us in a positive way. And he compiled a program, which of course didn't go into complete fruition because of World War II, which destroyed, he died before World War II, but destroyed all possibilities of many, many different movements in Europe, continuing and bringing about major change in Judaism. But I wanted to share with you some of the things which I wrote in an essay many years ago about these programs. And these are concrete things which a person can do or contemplate for their society for improving in Asos Mishpat Abbas Chesed Atzneach Senukecha. And in Das, he had the fundamental principle was Torah study in a more profound manner. Every person was part of Dr. Birnbaum's society, which were called Ha'olim, the Ascenders. Every Ole is required to expand and deepen his knowledge of Torah and Chachmas Yisrael. Before else, if he does not possess basic knowledge, he must acquire it upon entering the society. The society must constantly supervise its members to ensure that they are fulfilling this obligation. By the way, there was no gender difference for anybody. It must provide an opportunity to learn and grow through shurim that it will conduct among its circle. The society shall campaign among its members that their children and the students convince them to embark upon a term study in yeshiva or under renowned Talmid Chacham for 1 to 3 years. Number 2 is festive gatherings of Charedim for spiritual purposes. So introduction of the Eastern European Shalashudas, etc. Number 3 was the special instruction in history and development of Hislaivus and Dveikus in his practice. Hislaivus and Dveikus, one would seem to be not part of Das, but Reish is Chachma Yiras Hashem. Obviously, a person has to be aware of how to connect to Hashem as part of the wisdom, which then a person can use in order to manifest that Ratzon Hashem in the Bria. It says, fascinating, great emphasis must be placed upon stipulation that every Oleh must refrain from any excesses or immodesty in speech, clothing, deed, and from any competitive sport or gambling. Finally, the development of pure aesthetic that will free the architecture of our shuls and the nature of our music from the influence of other religions. That's for Das. For Rachamim, instruction issues ben Mechaber, guidance in expanded practical applications. Both modern classic texts should be employed with a particular stress on current situations. To develop a greater sense of belonging to Orthodox society as a whole. Number 2, the obligation of every Oleh to engage in Cheshbon HaNefesh at least once a week to abstain and if and to what extent is filled mitzvos and refrain from various according to instruction and guidance provided to him. The honor amen to the bracha. Number 3, an outright ban on certain material pursuits. He doesn't specify which. Number 4, substantive and apolitical common council to resolve Jewish societal problems in the spirit of Torah and Masorah. To achieve aliyah in the manner of, that was Rachel. To achieve aliyah in the manner of creating public lives, I depicted myself, 1, instruction in issues concerning glory, tiferes, and its correlation to religion and musar, and practical guidance to the application of these principles to the creation of appropriate public lives. Number 2, development of an independent Jewish social structure following Judaism and Musar. Number 3, the development of arts, especially architecture, music, and poetry, rooted in the spirit of true Jewish Masorah, and the establishing of competitions in these areas. It's interesting because it's against competitive sports, but it's for competitive aesthetic competitions. Number 4, the previously mentioned section of Das, ban on excess. So the idea is, as he says here, is this paragraph: please do not allow your hearts to persuade you that all there is here is foundation yet another redundant new society. That which we will found here is a Kiddush Hashem that will unite the driving forces of Hasidus, the Muslim movement, of the Talmudic masters, and of the ambition for loftier derech eretz. There will be a Kiddush Hashem to an extent never before attempted. A Kiddush Hashem that will be the first step toward the blossoming of the ancient Torah. A debt that we owe Hashem in return for the chesed He has granted us in choosing us our nation. It is the first step towards fulfilling the task which Hashem has chosen us. It's Tisha B'Av, and really this will not be completely inappropriate for this morning, as this morning was the time to focus on Yahadus. It's Kamisha Meitzah Munach Lefanav, and the keynotes don't focus on the Yahadus, which are the causes of the Churban. They don't focus on the ways to be masakin these Yahadus. They focus 99% on just raw emotional Yahadus. But as we know, in the afternoon of Tisha B'Av is a time when the laning is like a regular kindness, and that means that it's a time for introspection and trying to ascertain what we can do that Tisha B'Av should not be meaningless. Whether Tisha B'Av can be meaningful and lead ultimately to the Gula whenever we're zoicha to it. So it means that the afternoon of Tisha B'Av is a time when a person is supposed to look what were the causes of the Churban, and what are the ways in which we can fix that and bring about, if not the ultimate Gula, but as much of the Gula as we possibly can, because it is a process. So what we have tried to demonstrate today and tried to bring out is that the problem with problem is any problem. The problem is something which is falls under the rubric of the defect in Asos Mishpat, Abbas Chesed, and Atzei Alechas in Elokecha. And I remember now where I saw. Reb Chaim Ephraim Zaychik, the Or Nefesh. He says that Kamsa Bar Kamsa, Yerushalayim was destroyed. That was, in fact, a tremendous chisaron in Mishpat, because it's totally unjust to kick somebody out under those circumstances. Chesed, it's lack of chesed, and it's a lack of tznius. Because the person thought before they acted, they realized this is not Ratzon Hashem. What I'm doing is simple sinas chinam. What I'm doing is something which, and even if he did something which I have for a tremendous grudge, this public spectacle is beyond anything which can be possibly remotely considered to be mishpat or chesed, and therefore it's clearly coming from a lack of tznius, a lack of understanding of what my focus should be, what's in Hashem, and not my focus should be what I feel or what makes me emotional in certain ways. So what we have to makabel upon ourselves, Yom Chol Yom, Tisha B'Av is the inspiration, unfortunately, for which we have to use in order to get ourselves moving, is to be mechazik ourselves in these areas of Asos Mishpat, Abbas Ches, Abatzei Simulkecha, to strengthen themselves in Das, Rachim, and Tiferes. As you see, Dr. Bierman made very concrete, specific parameters out of the things which he felt were important, and we should also have that understanding that things have to be concrete and not just in the luft, as they say, in the air. And finally, that things have to correlate with Vasisa, Yoshua Tov, and Askel V'Yadorosi. The reason why we're here in this world is to do Yoshua Tov. It's to come to a intellectually profound, to the extent everybody can, cognition of Yedias Hashem, of our awareness of Hashem. And in order to do that, one has to focus on trying to bring about a better society, not just a better self, but a better society, because ultimately it questions the mission not just of an individual, but of Am Yisrael in general as Mamlechus Kohen B'Goy Kadosh. I'm not giving concrete ideas at the moment. It's not my place to do so. I'm not sure which ideas I would give. But this, if we can understand the true meaning of tznius, then we can understand how everything comes from that midah of modesty, humility, inner focus for trying to remember the core and act accordingly, and to act towards other people with always yosher b'tov until we can bring about the ultimate geula b'meir b'yameinu. Amen.